wonderful scene from RRR has set the screens around the world ablaze, wondering about the motivations of this guy who just jumps the fence and start beating up people, making them wonder, is he a protagonist or an antagonist? Now, is there some real event that may have been the inspiration for this scene? Absolutely, yes. I believe there is. It is the famous Chauri Chaura incident. Let me give you some background. In 1920, Mahatma Gandhi led a nationwide non cooperation movement in India. The movement involved civil disobedience. Civil disobedience means being disobedient of the regime, whatever it is, and using non-violent methods like satyagraha. What is satyagraha? Satyagraha means satya agraha. It's two words combined into one in Sanskrit. Satya means truth. Agraha means obstinate, being obstinate about truth. That is satyagraha. Now, what were they opposing? What happened was they passed some laws that at that time called the Rowlatt Act. What's the Rowlatt Act? The Rowlatt Act was the legislation. It was passed by the British legislature, British India legislature at the time, and the act allowed certain political cases, political people as well, to be tried without juries and permitted incarceration of suspects without trial. Now, the Indian National Congress organized these protests across the country to push for Swaraj or self rule as the ultimate goal. Now, what happened here in Chauri Chaura? In Chauri Chaura, apparently, the police were outnumbered. There were these protesters uh, on a march and they fired shots in the air. When they fired shots in the air, in the melee, there was confusion, and also they got the people got really angry, and that turned into a mob. And the police took refuge in a police station. The police station was set ablaze, and 23 people, 23 policemen were killed. Interesting part is that the policemen who were killed were all Indian and the people who were hanged were all Indian. Everybody involved in this were Indian. Gandhi at this time, when he learned of this incident, nationwide protest was going on. Obviously, non-cooperation movement was not confined to a small location, a small police station in the outskirts of Delhi. It was everywhere. But Gandhi did a self-reflection. He thought maybe I haven't preached the non-violence as much. Maybe the non-violent methods have not made inroads into the people's minds and hearts. So I have to abandon the non-cooperation movement at this time. Stopping of non-cooperation movement by Gandhi as a direct result of this Chauri Chaura incident, was a key moment in Indian freedom history. Now let us go back a wee bit and check a key figure that is mentioned in the RRR clip.
Of course not, sir. We've done nothing. We've done nothing to aggravate them. They're protesting here because Lala Lajpat Rai was arrested in...
Who is Lala Lajpat Rai? Lala Lajpat Rai was an Indian freedom fighter, politician, lawyer. The prefix Lala was honorific. He was known as Punjab Kesari, Punjab da Sher, or simply in plain English, the Lion of Punjab. He was one of the three members, the Triumvirate, Lal, Bal, Paul, who changed the course of Indian freedom movement. Lala Lajpat Rai was from Punjab, Balagangadhar Tilak was from Maharashtra, Bipin Chandrapal was from Bengal. The three leaders shaped the understanding of the young Mahatma Gandhi, who just came from South Africa in 1916. They shaped his understanding of the Indian freedom struggle and helped him become and become a leader and take over the reins of the Indian freedom movement. Now, Lala Lajpat Rai studied law. He gave up his practice to join the Indian freedom movement, strongly supported the reformist Arya Samaj movement, and advocated for self reform. According to him, Hindu society needs to fight its own battle with caste system, position of women, and untouchability. He believed that everyone should be allowed to read and learn from the Vedas. He founded the graduates of the National College in Lahore as an alternative to British styled schooling. One of the graduates happened to be Bhagat Singh, one of the most famous revolutionaries from India. Most Indians know about Bhagat Singh and his heroic deeds. I will make a separate video on Bhagat Singh. Now, Lala Lajpat Rai traveled to US in 1917, toured Sikh communities, visited universities, wrote a travelogue, The United States of America, 1916, which featured quotations from leading African American intellectuals like W.E.B. Du Bois and Frederick Douglass. He founded the Indian Home Rule League in New York City and petitioned the US House Committee on Foreign Affairs. The petition painted the British administration's misgovernance and also painted the aspirations of Indian public for independence, and it was actually discussed in the US Senate in October 1917. Lala Lajpat Rai was arrested many times for being part of political agitations and protests. The second time happened to be in 1921, around the same time the movie RRR was set. There are some coincidences in his life and what was in the movie. One example is in 1928, the UK set up the Simon Commission, headed by John Simon, to report on the political situation in India. That committee didn't have any Indians. It was met with countrywide protests. Lala Lajpat Rai led a non-violent march in protest. Police Lati charged him, or baton charged him, just like the scene that you see outside the police station when Ram jumps into the crowd and they beat the protesters up with batons. In that charge, the superintendent of police at Lahore, James Scott, personally assaulted Lala Lajpat Rai. The bleeding Lala, even with a blood soaked head, Lala addressed the crowd and said, I declare that the blows struck at me today will be the last nails in the coffin of British rule in India. Unfortunately, he succumbed later to the blows. Bhagat Singh, who was a witness and he was part of the protest as a peaceful protester, swore to exact revenge against Scott. Well, I said the name twice now. His name was Scott. So, Scott was the name used in RRR, as you guys know, the antagonist. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. Let's talk about that later. But let us see other historical incidents that we can draw from this scene.
Ah! Arrest that bastard!
George V was King of the United Kingdom and the British Dominions and Emperor of India from 1910 until his death in 1936. His wife was known as Queen Mary. People living in Los Angeles used to have a ship named Queen Mary docked for several years. It served as a museum for some time. It was interesting to read that when King George V visited India before he became king in 1906, he was apparently disgusted by racial discrimination and campaigned for greater involvement of Indians in the government of the country. Interestingly, he was the original Bharata Bhagya Vidhata, which was adopted into the Indian national anthem. That stanza, Bharata Bhagya Vidhata, means dispenser of India's destiny. Well, he was the original dispenser of India's destiny. Ironically, though, many of the excesses that are widely known in India post World War I happened on his watch, like the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Well, interestingly, he had a doppelganger in his cousin, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, the last emperor of Russia. He was brutally killed in the Russian Revolution of 1917. He was obviously George V. He wasn't able to help his cousin. Perhaps he had good intentions, but his intentions seem to have never materialized into actions. Let me take a pause here. Let me talk about colonialism in general and what I think about it. Is colonialism a wicked enterprise? Absolutely yes. The main purpose of colonialism is to have a colony, extract all the resources, raw materials, everything you can get from that colony, and use it for your own purpose. It's a legal robbery in daylight. That's what the British did back in the day. But do we have to hold the present day British citizenry responsible? No, we should not. It's just a lesson in history that this happened in India, where 29% of the where India used to be 29% of the world economy, it plunged to 2% of the world economy by 1947, and it took almost 100 years, 75 years to rebuild and become bigger than a Britain, which happens to be just an island. So when India does get bigger, does get powerful, we have to remember these lessons in history and not be the same colonist that Britain was. Thank you everyone for staying with me and looking at the historical facts that may have surrounded this epic scene in RRR. Hope it was informative and hope you had a good time and enjoyed all the same. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please press the bell icon. Here is your host, Hemant.